Why should you go off-grid and start homesteading? The first reason being, it just makes good financial sense. My house only costs $20,000.
Wow.
It's small, it's simple, I had to build it myself, but it only costs $20,000.
You already know what it is. It's your boy Laid Back with another reaction, another review, another episode. Hey, off the grid, you up to bat. Bow. It's your boy Laid Back. Welcome back to my channel. Hey, two things we got to do. You got to hit that subscribe button. I'm drinking this water. You already know what it is, man. You are the prize in 2025. You are the prize in 2025. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the notification bell. Stay up to date with all the videos. If you haven't copped the merch, you should. I'm just saying, it's fire. You know what I mean? Especially holiday season. But we back, man. We got some off the grid stuff going on. I think this is going to be very interesting because a lot of people is going to this off the grid type stuff. But let's go ahead and get into it. You make it to the end of this one, you a real one for real. Don't forget, hit the like button, man. Share this with the last person you text in your phone. I'm just saying. But let's go ahead and get into it. Fire Squad, what's popping? Let's get it.
I'm currently living off-grid in the remote Yukon wilderness, so I thought I would show you guys what it's like to live off-grid. Let's go. To start, this is how we heat our cabin. And this is where we go to the bathroom. The view is pretty nice though. We have an off-grid shower that we can use with a water heater, and then it's attached to a water pump that pumps water from the lake. We use a diesel generator to power the freezer, the Starlink, and this charging station. Getting fresh water is a little bit of an ordeal. What you have to do is you need to get into this boat and go out into the middle of the lake, fill up these jugs, and then put them through this filter into that jug, and then you can drink the water. But it still has a bit of a funky taste, so I definitely put 2 packets of Crystal Light in mine. We use a propane fridge and a propane stove. And for dishes, you just heat up some water in this pot and use this non-functioning sink. Let me know if there's anything else you want to know about living off-grid.
Would you ever live off grid? Would you ever live off grid? Let me see in the comments, man. Let me know, man.
Have you seen Robert Downey Jr. eco-friendly Malibu home? Not only does it look cool, but it costs half the price to build. It takes a third of the manual labor and it's about half the time. How it's made is also really cool. So they start with this giant balloon, then they add rebar for extra strength, which creates this highly durable concrete shell. Because of its dome-like structure, it allows for distribution of any external force. It makes it safe against earthquakes, hurricanes, floods, and it's resistant against fire. The concrete shell only takes a few days to build. After that, you can decorate it however you want. Building these dome houses is more natural, and it will lead us to a more sustainable future.
Yo, I would completely do that. For real.
These are the essential 5 components you need to live off the land. First, you need water. We get ours from our rainwater collecting system. The second thing you need is a good food source. You can grow so much of what your diet needs. We also have chickens, which give us eggs for good protein. The third thing you need is shelter. We went with a tiny house, but you can also use a tent. The fourth thing you need is sanitation. This right here is an outdoor composting toilet. You can even pump the water you need. Sanitation also comes in the form of this, our methane digester. We input food waste, and it captures all of the released methane, which goes to our cooktop where we cook food on. Everything else is turned into a liquid fertilizer, which is great for our garden. The last thing you need is energy. We use solar panels for this. This will give power to your tiny house or your tent. To go over it again,
Bro, I like this type of stuff. I ain't even gonna lie. I like it.
This off-grid tiny cabin Airbnb in the mountains is built on a floating rock. Down the stone steps across the bridge, you walk into the open cottage with a queen bed to your left. Then there's a power bank for some lights and to charge your devices and some kitchen utensils. There's a large couch sitting in front of a wood-burning stove that kept us warm all night, even when it was 20 degrees outside. Now the glass garage door that leads you out to a breathtaking mountain view with a bar and some chairs. There's a propane stove and a makeshift sink, as well as a grill on this front porch. Now around the back of the cabin, down a hidden staircase, we come to the bottom of the floating rock that this cabin is built on. This is insane.
Whoa.
Underneath is like a cave with a fire pit within, and then a view of the cabin overhanging the rock. There's a porta potty to go to the bathroom and an outdoor shower. Would you stay at this off-grid cabin? Save this video, follow us for the best Airbnb finds, and send it to an adventurous friend, especially if they'd also like their insane treehouse and luxury cottage on the same property.
Did you see that shower? See, that shower was outside. And did you hear what he said? It was 20 degrees. Hell no. Hell no.
Quit being lazy and build your own house. It's the only way that you are going to be able to afford one. Is it a ton of hard work? Absolutely. But is it complicated? Not really. First off, you're going to need a foundation. If you're building off-grid and you're building it by yourself, the only foundation that I recommend is pier and beam. Up north, this turns into a crawl space, but they're the same thing. Once the foundation is done, you're gonna frame out some walls. And while you're at it, it might be a good idea to add a roof. After that, you throw up some plywood, wrap it with house wrap, install some windows and doors, and you have a completely enclosed area. But to finish your exterior, you still need to do siding and your gutters, but none of this is complicated. Once you're inside, you need to run some wire and throw up some insulation, which is annoying, but not hard. Historically, the most complicated thing in the house would be plumbing. But with all the modern advancements, you can literally just push things together and anybody can do that. And that really only leaves drywall, which is my current bane of existence, and flooring, neither of which are that complicated.
So it's just easy to make a house then. It's just easy.
Too easy.
Man, I'm all for this off the grid stuff, man. I'm telling
So many people wonder why younger generations are flooding toward homesteading, and I really think the answer is pretty simple. I mean, just think about what we've been taught our entire lives. Things need to be quicker, faster, more efficient. Time is of the essence. Convenience is king. This all sounds familiar, right? For a long time, we were convinced that convenience was more important than quality. So I think what you're seeing from the younger generation is them waking up and understanding that we've been robbed of something. The quality of growing your own food in your backyard and knowing exactly what's in it. Or the quality of life increase that you get just from slowing down and not letting everyone else dictate your time. I think what you're seeing is the younger generation finally come to an understanding that the 24/7, 365 lifestyle is a scam. And instead of trying to time hack your morning routine, sometimes you just need to walk outside and pet a baby goat. Or just walk outside and touch some grass, get some sun on your skin. Maybe come outside and look at your garden.
Right.
I think at the end of the day, what you're seeing is a generation that understands that speed and efficiency doesn't always equal quality. I think that's exactly why you're seeing the younger generation find out what homesteading is and absolutely loving it. So if you want to learn more about backyard homesteading on a small scale, make sure you hit the follow button. Make sure you take some time to slow down a little bit. And at the end of the day, make sure you're following us for more homesteading tips.
I agree, man. Slow down a little bit, man. Come on.
There are only 3 locations in the US that I would recommend you homestead, and that's because it's really easy to eliminate most places. This is a cost per acre map. Basically, anywhere that's blue, yellow, or red is too expensive. You can't buy land in those locations. Now, specifically the blue and the tan, you can't even buy because that's federal or Indian reserves. You also need to take into account your grow zones. Anywhere that's blue, purple, that's all too cold. Anywhere that's yellow or orange is too hot. You want to be in zone 7 or 8, which is in the green area. So where would I recommend you homestead? Number 3 is the southern parts of Appalachia. Anywhere further north than West Virginia is too cold, too harsh of an environment to make homesteading easy. Don't get me wrong, you can homestead anywhere. I'm just trying to set you up for easy mode. That said, the second location is arguably way more difficult, and that would be eastern Idaho. And the only reason I recommend it is because that's the best location for you cold-loving freaks. However, the single best place that you can homestead in the US is in the Zion region.
I ain't never know none of that stuff.
They said, doesn't seem like it's a simple life because it looks like it takes so much work. My work is growing my food, taking care of my chickens and getting my eggs, being with my wife out here in the woods in the privacy to do whatever we want, when we want, how we want, live by our rules, not hurting anybody, not being hurt by anybody. I get to be outside all the time instead of in an office. Don't have to deal with the politics and bureaucracy of working with and for and around other people. All I have to do is obey my wife, and everything works out real fine. So believe me, yes, I tell people.
I ain't gonna say nothing. I ain't gonna say nothing about that. Obey your wife, bro.
All the time, living off grid and having a homestead isn't Pinterest. It's a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort and sacrifice, but it's beyond worth it. The moment that we went, we're doing this, our whole mindsets about life and everything completely changed. And anybody who's done this before us and has done it after us, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You think about it, you plan about it, you're excited about it, you share with family, you deal with the disappointment of family and friends telling you it's a dumb idea.
I'm sure.
You have complete strangers telling you what a great idea it is. You finally learn to get the, not to listen to the noise. And we have been having a blast out here.
It seemed like just a more calmer life.
I'm living in a 60-foot container house in the sky.
The owner of this container home provides a Jeep, and you take that across the river. You can use a pulley system to lift all your belongings. The kitchen is stunning with glass all around. And also the bed is very comfortable with 360 views and a nice little fireplace. On a balcony, you can get all the nature and see the river below. This house has 2 containers, and when you go outside, there's another door you open, and it's a spacious, full bathroom. 360 views, nature all around, so quaint, so beautiful. And also there's a rooftop where you can take your meal up and see the sunrise and also the sunset around the fire pit.
I need to do some Airbnb joints like that.
Hello, AD. What are you doing here?
AD.
Just kidding. Welcome to our home. The house was built in 1924. The gentleman who owned it had 3,000 acres around here. We have 125. It was built in the design of a Scottish hunting lodge. I personally have never been to a Scottish hunting lodge, so I'm gonna have to take your word for it. Check this out. You know what this is? This is a Prohibition bar. Now we have the original blueprints of the house, right? So we know that this room was called a linen closet, but it ain't a linen closet. This is where I get to do my thing. What's so special about this and the history of this place is that all of the people that drank here actually signed the wall. This is the signatures of some of the people that signed the wall. And keeping with tradition with what they did in this bar, I have asked a number of my friends to begin signing this wall, because socializing and having friends over and talking is very, very important to me and my family. When we were designing this house, we wanted it to feel like it felt in 1923, like it's a living salon. We contacted a dear friend of ours who became our interior architect, Sean Henderson, who is an unbelievable designer in this home. He just helped us reframe this experience and begin to think how we could live in it as a family. There are a lot of artisans and artists that went into the making of our home in this community that we now call home. And some of those people are James Romanchuk and his son, Dave, Jake Saka, who did all of the plumbing. Again, Sean Henderson, our architectural designer, and Dean Warner, who did the electricity, Chris Gregory, who matched all of the walls around here. And again, I just think it's so important to say that, like making a movie, an actor doesn't make a movie, a director doesn't make a movie. A team of people show up every day and pour their hearts into it.
That's definitely true. That don't look off the grid though.
Why should you go off-grid and start homesteading? The first reason being, it just makes good financial sense. My house only costs $20,000.
Wow.
It's small, it's simple, I had to build it myself, but it only costs $20,000. On that same note, food is freaking expensive, especially if you want quality, non-poison food. So if you start producing your own food, especially meat and fruit, you can reduce the cost of feeding your children down to minimum amounts. But that brings us to the second reason. Health. The only way to get real quality food is to produce it yourself. The only way that you are going to spend more time outside being active is if the outside looks like this. Third reason, the apocalypse, emergency preparedness, war, plague, political unrest are guaranteed parts of the human existence. But when you own your own home, when you own your own land, when you produce your own food, the ups and downs in society are nowhere near the same level of threat.
That's a great point.
So I live off-grid with kids, and I've got a 10-year-old now, an 8-year-old and a 7-year-old, and basically they've been born into this life. They've not really known anything differently, and I've not raised kids anywhere differently either. I suppose the main issues that are different from us and say our friends who live a sort of more conventional life, Number one, somebody asked about the social interactions, the children. I don't think that differs too much. My kids, they go to school 4 days a week and they have 1 day at home homeschooling. They have loads of interactions with their school friends. They get the bus with their friends and they go to the village and meet their friends, and their friends come stay here. And me and mum are quite involved in the activities in the village, and the kids go to Brownies and Beaver, so I don't think they miss out any more than any other kid that lives sort of in the farm a bit rurally. The main issue probably is going to be when they're a bit older and they want to walk into the village themselves, which is only about 2 miles away, but it's down a main sort of 60-mile-an-hour road with no pavement, and it's pretty narrow in places, and there's no lighting, so it'll probably be me driving them back and forward a lot, and it'll be pain for them if I'm not available to drive them back and forward, but that's to come. The other issues probably come more from off-grid living, and basically sort of the lack of modern conveniences living this way, really. We don't have a freezer, so that means no ice cream, not that we really eat much of it. We don't have loads of electricity in the winter, so if they all want, say, a PlayStation each when they're teenagers, that might become a bit of an issue. Other things that might be a problem, basically, when you live off-grid, often it comes hand in hand with kind of low income living as well, so they probably won't have the same sort of holidays that some of the other kids have. I mean, not all our friends have elaborate holidays, but some of them do. Some of them are always jetting off here, there and everywhere, and some of the families, they have quite, you know, nice fancy cars, but other than that, they kind of have all this, and they're pretty happy, I think.
That shit look beautiful out there though, very peaceful.
I bought this shed for $3,500 and turned it into a tiny house. But wait until you see the greenhouse kitchen. The inside of this shed was very cramped. We started to frame the extension for the greenhouse kitchen. I cut out a hole into the wall, did some measurements, and added more 2x4s for support. I found new cabinets for $25 and used reclaimed wood that cost me $250 for the kitchen. I hated the original floor, so I went with a high-quality vinyl plank. On the other side of the shed, I wanted a spa-like bedroom and bathroom. I learned how to lay tile, paint, and so much more. I wanted the bedroom to feel fresh with a lot of light and pops of color. We made a spa-like bathroom with a pine ceiling and subway tile. I wanted a kitchen that brings in a lot of light and a ton of plants. Now I can cook recipes that were created on this land for over 100 years.
Bro, this shit look dope to me, bro. Is it just me?
So for under $8 million, you can get this off-the-grid fortress with a pool overlooking your 93-acre backyard, which for scale is about twice the size of the U.S. Capitol. The home itself is designed by a famed architect and built to withstand almost anything. There's 2 generators, its own well, a 2,500-gallon holding tank, heated concrete driveway, and a gated entrance. This is a doomsday prepper's dream. The home itself has 3 bedrooms, 4 baths, 4,500 square feet. It's located in Cleellum, Washington, with views of the Stewart Mountains. This place is amazing for preppers. If you're concerned about civil unrest, check this place out.
$7 million?
Have you ever felt the strong desire to sell everything you own, quit your job, buy some land, and then live amongst the tree nymphs on your very own off-grid homestead? Because you can. But what if I could tell you the 3 main mistakes that I see people make? Mistakes that if you also make, will ultimately ensure that this little boondoggle, as your mother-in-law likes to refer to it as, absolutely won't succeed. Because I can. The third one on the list can be absolutely devastating. So let's talk about it. Ha! These 3 points are serious, and I need you to know I'm not joking. If I were joking, I'd say knock knock, and you'd say who's there, and I'd say who, and you'd say who, and then I'd have you in the palm of my hand. This first mistake happens to be the same place that I tell people who are starting out on this adventure to start, and that is asking and answering for yourself why you'd want to put yourself through this in the first place.
That's real.
It's a hard life, especially at the beginning. I mean, don't you love going to a job that cares so much about you that they would replace you after 3 days of being sick without a doctor's note? Isn't the time that you spend in traffic going to and fro said job something that you would consider to be me time, reserved specifically for podcasts and audiobooks? And how can you not love going to a job all month, getting paid, and then paying your bills, and getting to start the next month with absolutely zero to show for your past efforts, proving that you are in fact on a hamster wheel. All jokes aside, because if I were joking, I'd say a horse walked into a bar and the bartender said, "Why the long face?" If you're like me, you hate all of those things about the way that life is organized now. But did you know that trying to get away from those things or anything else you don't like about life is not a strong enough motivator to get you through the hard times that are associated with off-grid living and homesteading? If it was a strong enough motivator, you'd have probably already changed it, but you haven't. Yoy! A strong positive purpose is something that you're running toward, not something that you're running away from. For us, it was to organize our life in such a way that we had the freedom and the wherewithal to be able to have the types of experiences we wanted to have with our family and still be able to support the needs of our family. See the difference? Contrary to popular belief, this is not a preparing for doomsday lifestyle. No, off-grid living and homesteading is actually a hopeful about the future lifestyle. It's got to be based on hope. Running away from doing something that you don't like, not gonna cut it. And I'd love to hear what your hopeful, positive purpose would be for you in the comments. The second huge mistake I see people making is trying to stick too rigidly to a plan. Let's say you fancy yourself a planner. You've been taught platitudes such as, failing to plan is planning to fail. So you take that wisdom and you plan out every minute of your life. How's that going for you? Think about it. If your best plans have wound you up where you are, why are you where you don't want to be? Which led me to the motto of our homestead, which is plans make the best kindling, because they do. The problem is, with a rigid plan, you will always reach a point where Mother Nature is going to tell your ideas about the future to kick rocks. And if your plan doesn't have the fluidity to allow for such a thing to happen, nothing's going to get done, even if there's much to do. It's way more effective and more efficient.
I like this guy. I like how this guy talks. I like this guy.
To work on becoming flexible, versatile, and gaining an ability to adapt, and then aligning your actions to accomplishing the purpose that we discussed earlier. Those are the skills that are going to get you there. Having a loose outline of the things you want to get done isn't necessarily a bad thing. Just remember, when you take your rigid plan and you tell that plan to whoever you consider your maker to be, they're going to respond with a giggle and a hearty "you must be joking," to which you'll have to respond by saying something like, if I were joking, I'd say, watch what you say around the egg whites. They can't take a yolk. The third mistake is as devastating as it is simple. Don't buy animals right off the bat. Instead, focus on infrastructure, gaining the comforts that you want, and organizing your life in such a way that you have the control over it that you're craving. Now, you may be saying, but having all of those adorable homestead animals is the life that I want. Take that intention, put it in a box, lock the box, and then take that box and bury it deep, way deep, as deep as you possibly can until you're ready to do it. I promise, the only reason that you think that is because you don't have those animals now. Of course, homestead animals are super cute and adorable. Sure, they also help you produce food for the children. But you know what else they are? Animals are resource parasites and time vampires. And they will prevent you from establishing the life that you actually moved all the way out here to create for yourself. I promise this. There will come a time when you're ready to have those animals, but at the beginning of this adventure, ain't it? So heed my warning. I need you to pretty please, with cheese on top, understand that I know from whence I spake. This last one is no joke. If I were joking, I would say a guy walks into a bar to be greeted by a tiny little piano player. He walks up to the bartender and asks, "Hey, what gives?" The bartender says, "Well, we've got a genie back here. You want to try it?" He takes the lamp and he rubs it and he says, "I wish for $1 million." And then suddenly, the entire bar is full of 1 million ducks. The bartender looks at the guy and says, "Yeah, he's not very accurate at all." And then a guy all the way down the bar begrudgingly says, "It wasn't like I asked for a 12-inch pianist." Limit your exposure to these mistakes and you're going to do just fine. I hope that helps, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Don't buy the animals first. Don't.
If Ned Kelly were to disappear for a few days of off-grid luxury, this is where he'd check in. A hand-built cabin perched high on the side of a mountain with a fire-warmed bath, a crackling fireplace, and wide-open views where he could see exactly who was coming. It's called Valley's Nest. Once a meditation hut, now the ultimate bush hideout, with stunning views over the Fingal Valley in northeast Tasmania. The cabin itself is made entirely from recycled materials, and with no less than 3 fireplaces around the camp, there's zero chance of it going cold. Now, I came for the bath. No surprises there. Just take a look at this thing. It's carved into stone, heated by fire, and it's basically an altar to outdoor bathing. I reckon even Ned could have washed away a few sins here. But the unexpected gift, and I think every great stay has one, was the simple joy of cooking over open flames. A local steak, some mushrooms, and that unmistakable campfire flavour. I haven't stopped thinking about how cool this place is. It's rugged, peaceful, and just really, really special. Tag someone who'd disappear here in a heartbeat.
See, it seemed like so simple, you know what I'm saying?
The person that I think will probably buy this property is going to be somebody who values freedom. They would like to be more self-sustaining, more in tune to nature, and also quite adventurous. We always have called this our adventure hub. When we originally bought it, it was nothing but woods here. It had been cleared maybe 20 years before. It had been logged, and so we had to put in all the roads and do all the infrastructure here. And it's 7 5-acre parcels, totaling 35. This property is completely off the grid. We have Starlink internet and solar power. It's a state-of-the-art solar system, so it's pretty modern as far as off-grid living goes. My favorite place on the property is the garden. We use permaculture practices, so we do no-till, and we've added tons and tons of wood chips that have broken down into the most beautiful soil. And it's been really rewarding to not just grow plants, but to grow soil. Now we are reaping the benefits of really, really great soil where all we have to do is pretty much put a seed in and it flourishes.
Really?
We have a solar pump that pumps up to an upper tank, and we have 2 3,000 tanks and 1 1,000 tank.
Jeez.
And so it's really great spring water, and it gravity feeds to this cabin, to what we call Caleb's cabin, and to the house. And then we have another spring that's set up for irrigation for the orchard, which is awesome. It's a drip system, and it goes to all of the fruit trees and to our lower garden as well. We have automatic sprinklers everywhere, and so watering here is actually a breeze. When my son was a senior in high school, he built for his senior project a little cabin. So we call that KK's cabin. And then we have our Airbnb cabin. It's brand new, handcrafted by my husband. And he built it with wood sustainably harvested from our property. He used the sawmill to produce it for all the siding and everything. So this little cabin we're really proud of. We just put it on Airbnb, and we had 4 weekends, the next 4 weekends book up. We have 4 or 5 camping spots on the property that have water, including the RV. I call it Harvey the RV. We are just starting to reap the benefits of earning kind of passive income by renting those out. It is truly an adventure hub.
They had to make their own roads, bro. They for real. Yo, that looks beautiful. Man, they can sign me up, man. I'm telling you. Oh, shit.
A lot of people think this cabin I'm building is going to fall down. And look, I'm not here to argue with you. If you don't know me, my name is Wes, and I'm working on building the most badass off-grid cabin retreat any 22, 23-year-old man can ask for. You know what I'm saying? This whole entire idea started off with me selling my Corvette to buy this school bus. Me, my pit bull, and my 2 kittens lived in this school bus throughout the winter, and we thrived. We made it happen. We made it work.
Really?
And while I was living in the school bus, I built this entire cabin right here. And no, it's not much, but what I'm working on right now is gonna be awesome. Let me show y'all. Okay, so this is gonna be my biggest and my main deck, which spans the full length of the school bus. So, now once you get to this side of the deck, there's gonna be a set of double doors exactly where I'm standing with another cabin suspended up here on stilts. It's gonna be awesome.
Really?
I have absolutely zero experience in what I'm doing right now. I'm just doing. Like I said, a lot of people think my cabin's gonna fall down. If you wanna figure out, hit that follow button. We got a lot more work to do.
He said I got zero experience, bro. That is crazy.
This is what I call real wealth. And it doesn't have to look exactly like this, but you get the picture. Having your own land, having your own little cottage, a little farm, do you know what I mean? Growing vegetables, maybe some carrots, some grapes, oranges, having a few chickens running around, you know what I mean? Feeding the cows, you know what I mean? That's real. That's what it's all about. Being away from all the BS, getting away from the city, just having peace of mind, seeing nothing but greenery, and just enjoying what God has created. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's real. That's big mood. We as a people have been lied to for so many years because they've sold us a dream, a fake facade that in order to be successful, you gotta have $1 million, £1 million in your bank account. You gotta have the biggest watches, the fastest cars, the best clothes. That's how they sold it to us. That's what they call success. Do you know what I mean? And the brain is like a sponge, we absorb it. But really and truly, this is what you call success. Now success may mean different things to different people, do you know what I mean? But as I'm getting older, this is what I call success. This is what I call financially free. This is what I call freedom. This is what I call happiness. Do you know what I mean? And boy, I really do hope and pray that one day with my hard work, I'll have my own little farm as well. You know what I mean?
I respect that, man. I respect that, man.
You haven't even Googled it. My house was cheap. It only cost £12,000. Building a roundhouse and a load of walls around the yard out of sandbags was cheap. My land was cheap too, and the best part is you can get a mortgage on land that most people don't know about. Building a well to give me free water forever was cheap. Starting a farm was cheap. Started with 6 pigs, now we've got 30. Even knowledge is cheap. You've got everything you need to know in the palm of your hand. The only thing I've spent a chunk of money on is my solar. But now, obviously, I've got free power for pretty much forever, a little bit on diesel. But all in all of my setup costs are relatively cheap. You don't need loads of money to get yourself going. You probably need a job and good credit. That's about it. Cash flow is king. If you've got money coming in, you've got money each month to spend on upgrading your life. As the saying goes, you can get it done fast and nice, which is going to be expensive, or you can do it cheap and nice, which is going to be slow. Pretty much what I'm trying to say is, if you're going to be doing something like this on a budget and you want it to be good, you best get good at learning how to make things yourself.
Gotta take it back to the basics.
If you're thinking about owning land, listen up. I'm gonna tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. We live off-grid in the beautiful mountains of West Virginia. And let me tell y'all, it is work. Let's start off with the critters. The black snakes are your friends. They get rid of the bad snakes and they get rid of the mice. The mice out here are no joke. Get used to dealing with bugs. You can put all the traps you want out, but guess what? They're still going to get in.
Yeah,
this is their world now.
Right.
However, peppermint oil is a really good way of keeping them out. For our little cabin, we would come every weekend and see that there was a ton of dead bugs inside. But ever since we started planting peppermint oil with cotton balls, don't see as many bugs inside. Now let's talk about the maintenance. Bruh, if you have more than an acre, this is going to be work. You see this? This is 5 acres of land that I have to manage. And everyone wants to glorify, oh, I have land, and it's not as glamorous. If you don't have no one to properly take care of it, it is all you. I highly suggest you invest in a good weed whacker, a good riding mower. Facebook Marketplace is going to be your best friend, but you live and die by the sword. You're going to either strike gold or you're going to end up with a broken trailer like that. Blew out on me the second day I had it.
Damn.
But these chairs were from Facebook Marketplace. So it's hit or miss. You're going to need to learn to be very crafty and handy because there's not that many people you can call to fix things. And if you do, they're going to be very pricey. But if you got the money for that, hey, this is going to be no problem for you. Honestly, the pros outweigh the cons. I love the challenges that do come. They can be a little stressful, but you become a better human afterwards. You feel good once you accomplish it. So if you're thinking about moving out to the country or you're thinking about buying land, just some things to consider.
You notice how like everybody that's living in this off the grid space seem a lot more relaxed and a lot more chill. They talking about the work, the hard work. Yes, it's definitely a lot of hard work involved, I'm sure. But for the most part, the energy around the people seem very chilled and relaxed. Is it just me?
Recently, we bought an island in Finland. That was a year ago, when the island had nothing on it and I had never built anything before.
Wow.
Now we have an island, tiny log cabin, a warm shower, dock, barge, outhouse, as well as all the trees felled for our next, much larger log cabin. The first thing we did on the island was build a deck for our tent so that we could have a place to stay while we build. The tent kept us alive in the winter, but it did have a few unwanted guests. Then we started felling trees for our log cabin. The trees were pretty big, and it was scary cutting them down since I had never done anything like it before. Once they were felled, we realized there was a lot of leftover tree that was too skinny to use in our bigger cabin. So we decided to make an island tiny home out of it. This allowed me to practice building with logs for the first time while making an actual home on the island. And now our setup looks like this. We have solar, a warm shower, and a dock plus barge to transport materials to the island. This is just the beginning. Now the real builds are gonna start. Follow along as we build a traditional Finnish log cabin, completely by ourselves, using trees from our island.
Yo, that shit is fire. That is fire.
People who live in this commune are below the poverty line, but over the last 50 years, the community has grown from owning 30 acres of land to over 500 acres of land. So how have they done that when they only effectively make $9,000 per year each?
Really?
Well, Twin Oaks is an income-sharing community, so they run a couple of businesses like making tofu, and everyone who lives here works on the business. And they don't get paid a salary. The income goes into a collective pot that covers living expenses like food and infrastructure.
Really?
They've got a ton of land. You get 2 gorgeous meals a day cooked for you.
Really?
They share about 13 cars, 8 washing machines, 4 kitchens. I might have got some of those numbers wrong. But the point is 100 people share a lot, which saves them a ton of money, a ton of electricity. On average, people here consume 70% less gasoline and 80% less electricity than people in the rest of America. They're not cooking hundreds of meals. They grow 90% of the food that they eat in the summer. And in a world with climate change, it's becoming less and less feasible to live individualistic lives. And Twin Oaks is a great example of how you can live a communal life, which is actually often better than individualistic lives. Not only in terms of the material things that they get, but also the immaterial, the connection.
Right.
I only arrived here last night, and I already feel incredibly welcomed by this community. So I'm so grateful for what they're doing.
This stuff looks, even him, he's sitting there chilling, relaxing, just in a hammock, just like, yo, man. These ideas, like he said, like the individualism of what's going on in America, and to hear like stuff, I've never heard of a community that works together like that and that works for one thing. You get 2 meals a day. I've never heard none of this stuff before. This stuff is like, it's crazy to me. It is crazy to me.
How do we get drinking water living off-grid in earthships? Here, let me show you. The roofs of the earthships are designed for rain catchment and snow melt. So all the water that's collected from the roof then flows into cisterns, which are in the ground. This is what they look like. There are multiple cisterns on the properties. This one actually, if you look, is getting really low. This is low. I have another cistern which is right next to it. So this one is full, and I would just pump the water from here into the cistern that is really low. Now from the cistern, it is then pumped to the house, which it goes through a filtration system first. Then it flows through the sink. Then we finally run it through the Berkey, which also has more filters. This is a gravity-fed filtration system, and this is exactly how we get our drinking water living off-grid in earthships.
I've heard of earthships. Them joints is fire.
Hi everybody, welcome to my beautiful little cabin
built in the 1970s, early 1970s, in the Sierra Nevada. Come on in.
This room is where we spend most of our time. It's got a really ugly leather couch and a really beautiful granite fireplace. All the stones were hewn from granite dome by a guy named Barney, who was quite the craftsman, huh? And then the old kitchen, it's exactly the same way it was in 1972. Same stove,
wow,
same sink, same fights over the dishes. Okay, moving on. Dining room table. My dad made this. We eat there unless we can eat outside because this is the money spot with its beautiful view over our green meadow. Okay, upstairs. Those spiral stairs to the second floor. This is the most beautiful room in the house, in my opinion. It's where my folks used to sleep, always with the sliding glass door open. In the winter, we heat it with this old wood fireplace, and it keeps it really cozy. I think of this room as the room of ancestors. There's my grandfather, my grandmother, all my ancestors who sit like friendly ghosts right in that chair and watch over us. In the bathrooms, they're just simple. This is a little half bath. My mom decorated it. My dad hung this light. And that's it. That's the tour of my sweet off-grid 70s cabin in the Sierra.
Would you guys live off-grid though?
Prefabricated homes were incredible. Sears or a company like Aladdin would literally just ship you the materials and instructions to build a house.
What?
These weren't crappy houses. These became houses that held value. Adjusted for modern inflation, they'd cost around $30K today. So why don't they sell stuff like this anymore? Well, some companies are trying to. For example, Lowe's is starting to sell mini homes and self-assemblable sheds.
Really?
And the prices for these can vary widely. But for example, if you were to get a fully furnished mini home kit, that might run you around $50,000. Significantly more expensive than the inflation-adjusted price of house kits sold 100 years ago, which were, by the way, much larger. Yes, you had to do pretty much all of the masonry yourself, and now there are different standards for heating and insulation. But it stands to reason that a company today could figure out a way to pack all of this stuff in or find a way to sell it to you. That being said, I don't know shit about houses, so maybe it's just not possible. What is known though is that these houses, which were assembled by kit maybe 100 years ago, they still hold their value.
Really?
Which is crazy. That is an insane return on your investment.
Wow, that is some craziness. Wow.
And I also think that there's a lot more opportunity for education because building is not hard. It's been mystified, I think, for profit, but it isn't hard.
People keep saying, I know y'all don't want me to keep stopping the video, but it got my gears going. They keep saying that the building aspect is not that hard. Is it anybody in the comments that is familiar with building, architecture, houses, all that type of stuff? Let me know in the comments. Is it really that easy to really put a house together? Or is it really difficult? Y'all let me know in the comments. This is like the second, third time in this video where they was like, hey, it might be difficult, but it's not hard to do. You can actually get it done.
And our ancestors have always done it, and around the world people continue to do it all the time, and it's important.
So yeah, there are definitely challenges to this lifestyle. There's no two ways about that. Like everything you do yourself. So like I have to milk that cow twice a day. I cannot take any time off. Must be done. Have to make sure the horses get fed 3 times a day. I cannot miss that. Other real negatives, I mean, the lack of convenience. I mean, I acknowledge that there are many things, many conveniences that our culture and society and science have come up with over the years that we do not have. A laundry machine, for example, is a spectacular example of a very convenient device. We don't have that. We have to dance in our laundry and actually wring it out. So, I mean, most of the complaints that I have are along these lines. It's sort of like, it takes time to do things. But at the same time, you have the time. Through permaculture and lots of time to think and consider the ramifications, we have discovered that a sustainable lifestyle is absolutely 100% possible for a human being. A free lifestyle based on the earth is not this crazy fantasy. It's a very real thing. The earth is so abundant. All you have to do is care for her soil and put seeds in it, and you shall be rewarded. So I'm very hopeful and very optimistic that we've come to this era of technology and sharing information and enlightenment that we can actually start, expressing these ideas. There's more and more people catching on to the permaculture idea every day, more and more urban gardens and guerrilla gardens and gangster gardeners, like so many people just becoming tenders of the earth and sharing that food with their neighborhoods. This is what's actually going to bring the poverty reduction and the actual systems that will make people live in abundance. It's not going to come trickling down from the government. We've waited for that for years, but we can put the seeds in the ground and we can make it happen now.
Please share this video if you liked it. Also, be sure to subscribe to Exploring Alternatives and check out our playlists for more stories like this. Thanks for watching.
They talking my language.
A tour of my off-grid house on a small Caribbean island. Come on, I'll show you.
Oh, he on the Caribbean?
This is my outdoor kitchen. I have an outdoor kitchen because it doesn't make any sense to heat things up inside the house and then have to cool it off with an air conditioner and use up all of that electricity. And of course, the view is, well.
Oh, hell no! Man, look at this. You talk about in the Caribbean, now you talk about, I like that island stuff. I like that.
Just amazing. Okay, let's go inside. This is my house, and this is the kitchen. Right there's my art studio. Back there's the bathroom, my bedroom, and then the main living space, again, with beautiful views of the ocean. You'll notice there are no upper cabinets, and the reason is I wanted all of these great big windows, so it almost looked like you could look through the house from that side all the way over to that side. And I have this great big long counter because I like to have friends over for dinner parties where we all cook together. So it's not made for practical use. It's made for a lot of people to be here. That. And I painted them all these different colors because I realized people could never find anything. So now I can say, oh, it's in that red drawer right there. I tried to source everything I could from here on Honduras. So local craftsmen made that couch for me. And I was even able to get these awesome fans here in Honduras. People always ask about air conditioning. We don't have central air conditioning. We have these split units instead, which are really efficient because then you're only cooling the space where you want to. And we run those on dehumidifier usually instead of air conditioning. Bathroom, and a couple things to note. Everything is low flow, including the toilet. And I have a bidet there so that you don't put toilet paper down in the digester since we treat all of our water there. All of the showers are also low flow. So these are, I think, only 2.5 gallons per minute. And even the rain head shower is less than 4 gallons per minute. Conservation is essential, which is also why I have a dishwasher because it loses less water than hand washing. But I don't use this when I'm low on electric because it does use a lot of electricity. Every sink has 2 faucets. This is just the regular one, and this is for drinking water. This is safe to drink, but this also goes through some extra filtration, so we use that. This is my art studio, which is kind of a mess right now, but this is where I paint, and I designed this easel so that I can move things up and down with these pegs, and it also moves back and forward. And then inside of here, I have like all of my brushes and all of my oil paint. I love my art studio. Now let's go upstairs to the loft, which was kind of an afterthought. It wasn't originally supposed to be there, but the builder said, hey, I got to put a top on your rooms anyway. We could make that a loft for very little. And I think this loft only cost me $3,500. The loft is set up with 2 extra twin beds for friends that come and visit. And this is where I do most of my reading and my thinking because I run this air conditioner most of the time because that cools the whole house down. This is also where my workstation is so that I can hook up to my computer. I do a lot of drawing and doing remote work here. I'll show you the guts of the house that make all these systems work. Underneath the breezeway is 24,000 gallon cisterns and I can access them through these panels. Rain gutters divert rainwater down and fill this up during the wet season, and then we use it during the dry season. And then that rainwater goes through here, our water treatment system. So we have a pump that pumps the water out of the cistern, a big pressure pump to keep the pressure up, and it goes through a series of different filters, including reverse osmosis and a UV light, which is right over there. Water heater, which does take up electricity, but we hardly use any water because it's so hot here. We're trying to cool off, not heat up in the shower. And there's no propane or open flame since there's no fire department here. After that water gets used, the black water comes down here in one system, which is a series of digesters that break it down. And then there's also a gray water system. After it's treated, it has no smell or anything like that. And it comes out here to our pond, which as you can see is full of vegetation, as well as lots of live fish, frogs, tadpoles, birds, all that. Just love this space. For electricity, we have solar panels up on the roof. It comes down here through these inverters, which then feed it into these huge batteries here. And with that, we can keep mine and my sister's house powered all of the time. And all of these systems are now automated so that I can control them no matter where I am. And there are cameras everywhere so I can keep a watch on everything that's going on. And if the batteries ever run out of power, I've got this generator that I can hook up to generate electricity and recharge the batteries. Both my and my sister's house are on stilts to keep it up so there's no flooding. And so we use the space down below for other things. This is my scuba room where I keep all of my scuba gear and the scuba gear I have for friends and family that come down and visit. Outside in the garden, we grow things like these pineapples that we got growing here and bananas, mangoes, papaya, stuff like that. We also decided to build out the area under the houses by putting in a little guest house. This is a 2-bedroom guest house with bath.
Bruh, this place big as hell. What?
Everything like that, and a kitchen. This is almost in constant use. Even if I'm not here, somebody's usually here, staying, family or friends. But it's important because if my mother ever needs somebody to watch after her, she can come down and have her own apartment. And then when I'm old, if I can't get around very well, I can have a full-time nurse come and stay here and take care of me up above. And I can do that for a fraction of what it would cost me to get assisted living in the United States. So I think this is a pretty good investment.
Yo, this is fire. Fire.
I built a tree house and the government didn't like it, so they thought they could stop me by illegally cutting my power. So I got solar panels and got back to work. I converted this 100-year-old farm well into a solar-powered off-grid watering system, and it works like a charm. Almost. The sun hits these 2 solar panels and charges these 2 batteries, and those power a pump way down in this well, which fills this old 53-gallon whiskey barrel. And when it fills up to this pipe, this switch tells the pump to cut off. There's a secondary high-pressure pump under the barrel, which will push water to wherever I need it. The current problem I'm running into is that since the inside of the whiskey barrel was charred, the little flakes keep getting into the exit pipe and restricting water flow. That and the water tastes like whiskey. And there were many questions saying, why don't you put the whiskey barrel on top of the treehouse roof and let gravity do the rest? Water weighs over 8 pounds a gallon, and weight is a constant consideration in a treehouse, so putting all of that weight on top of the treehouse roof is probably not the best move. Plus, it would still have to be pumped all the way up there. That system I just showed you, it's not even for the treehouse. It's actually for the off-grid garden, where we will source all of our food for the year and store in an off-grid underground bunker. This well is deeper and higher pressure, and it's going to supply the treehouse fully off solar. So that's the plan, but just in case that doesn't work, wait till you guys see my sick new Komatsu dozer I just picked up. Stay tuned and hit that follow button. You'll get to watch me turn this into the most sophisticated off-grid treehouse on the planet.
Another young guy out there off the grid.
This building in Namibia is made out of mushroom waste, and here's how they do it. So Namibia is overrun by this invasive species called encroacher bush, which essentially sucks up all of the country's water supply. So the team at Red House Studio and MIT came up with the idea of using this bush to grow mushrooms with that could also create low-cost building materials too. They're calling it Mysohab. They start by cutting and grinding down the bush into a foundation that's perfect for growing mushrooms on. After these mushrooms are harvested, the leftover material is shaped into building blocks that are even stronger than concrete.
What?
Innovations like Biohab can help provide food security and low-cost housing to local people. And with the invasive bush taken away, grasslands can regrow, helping to feed the wildlife too. Drop a mushroom emoji in the comments if you're a fan of this idea, and follow to hear more sustainable projects like this.
Man, drop a mushroom in that comment, man.
So everyone thinks you have to poo in the field when you live off-grid. But I just put myself a proper toilet in instead. But I have to drink from the river. But I just dug my own well with some filters and free water forever now. People think you have to cook by campfire. I just installed myself a normal cooker instead. Pass the evenings reading by candlelight. But I just bought some modern technology of solar panels, some big inverters, some big batteries, as well as a generator for backup. Now it's almost free electric. But being off-grid in the middle of nowhere means you're completely cut off from everyone and everything. But I just got myself a Starlink and now have better internet connection than most people in a city with averaging over 250 meg. People seem to think you wash your clothes in a mop bucket or something. But I just went ahead and bought myself a normal washing machine. And a tumble dryer to dry them all to. And always say it must be impossible for you to store fresh food. But I just installed a fridge. And a big freezer. This big one too. Which means I can store all the meat I can possibly raise for myself, as well as a ridiculous amount of fruit we get in the summer. So yeah, for me and many others off-grid, it's not about living like you're camping, it's about not being reliant so you don't have to be compliant. Till next time.
You don't have to be reliant, so you don't have to be compliant. What? They talking different shit.
This is the biggest and most extensive off-grid project I have ever seen. This is a Scandinavian scribe log house. Let's take a look inside.
Damn.
There's 2 lofts, one above the bedroom and one above the kitchen, and the stairs are going to be here, and then there's a catwalk between these 2 lofts. From the living room, you can look out at the lake. All of the flooring and ceiling was cut and milled here. We're in the process of sanding the floor now. Every log in here is completely handcrafted and scribed to fit together with absolutely no chinking. You can see the beautiful joinery displayed inside.
Yo, this shit fire to me.
If you want to live off-grid, you need to take a look inside the sustainable tiny home. It's called an eco-capsule, designed in Slovakia, and it has a bunch of features to help you live self-sufficiently. Solar panels and wind turbines make sure that you have plenty of electricity. Rainwater is stored and filtered, helping you tend to your fruit and veg. And there's a huge battery which can last for days, even without any wind or sun. This 2-person pod also has air conditioning, heating and Wi-Fi using a 4G connection. The pod even comes with its own app which allows you to control these home systems from your smartphone. It uses a waterless toilet which separates your deposit for easier disposal. All these features do put it on the pricier side though, but the manufacturers expect the price will drop significantly as production increases. Would you live in an eco-capsule? Share your thoughts in the comments and hit follow to stay up to date with the latest innovations.
It gotta be bigger than that for me. It just gotta be bigger, that's all.
So how much did it cost me to build my off-grid cabin? So the first cost to consider is the cost of the land. We'll call this cost number 0 because that number differs wildly depending on where you are. So I'm excluding that cost from this video. So the first cost is the cost of your foundation. Now there's many different types of foundations you can do, but the easiest for amateurs to do is a pier and beam foundation. With this type of foundation, your house is sitting on concrete piers. So the cost of the rebar and the concrete for the foundation was $340. The next part is the wooden joist. This is what sits on top of the concrete, and that cost about $500. That's because these boards are pressure treated, and pressure treated wood is expensive. The framing cost me about $5,000, which includes the OSB sheet, and that includes all of the 2x4s and 4x8s for stick framing. So again, about $5,000 for all of the wood products to build and enclose the structure. Next up is the cost of roofing. To put a sheet metal roof on my house cost me about $2,000. You'll probably want windows and doors, and that cost me about $500. And then the last thing you need to do to finish the structure of the home is put house wrap on and put siding on. You can go with a cheap siding if you want, but with a structure this small, the cost savings is minimal. I went with fiber cement board, which is considered the premium siding, and that cost me about $2,000. Of course, then you have to put steps in and paint it and many other miscellaneous things. And then, of course, for something like this, you always want to round up. So that brings our total to $11,000.
For you to be living rent-free, you would have to be living off-grid. Now, there's a massive misconception of living off-grid, especially what is put into the media. People make it look like it's all fairy dust and stars and rainbows. Now, whether you're living in a log cabin, or whether you're living in a massive hut that you've built, or whether you're just winging it and just making the best out of what you've got outside, there is a lot of things that you have to take into consideration. For example, your own heating. And the only heating source you will have out there is basically dead fallen wood, and in the shape of a campfire. There's also a shelter that you have to make and build. You have to keep yourself warm, you have to keep yourself dry, you have to keep yourself sustainable. Now, the food situation really doesn't matter.
I don't like his house. I ain't building that. I don't like that one.
I mean, just because you are off-grid, it doesn't mean you ain't allowed to eat normal food. If you can source your food from a supermarket, but you're cooking and eating and living outside, you're still living off-grid. Whether you're about to backpack the whole of the country, whether you're about to set out on a journey where you'll be living outside, you're still technically going to be living off-grid. Now, if you're going to head out on a massive journey or live outside, make sure you do your research and gather some knowledge.
For sure. For sure. All right, guys, that was another compilation, man. That was Off the Grid. If you made it this far, you a real one for real. Make sure you put that in the comments. I like this off the grid type stuff. I mean, it's just right up my alley. I've never done nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? But it seems like something that is connected to me innately. You know what I'm saying? Like to want to be out in nature, to want to have your own, and want to grow your own food, produce your own food, be sustainable, all those type of things. And like I said, if you notice, almost everybody in this video, they didn't say that it wasn't hard work. Of course it's hard work, but did you see how relaxed they was? Did you see how it didn't seem like they was stressed out at all? You know what I'm saying? The things that the situations that they ran into that they had to fix, they were like, all right, we're gonna get through it, we're gonna fix it, we gotta do that. But outside of that, they enjoying family, they enjoying time in nature, they enjoying better food, they enjoying better water. Even like they saying the water that they are getting is damn near free. The energy is damn near free. You know what I'm saying? After they invested and set it up properly, it's sustainable on its own. Very, very interesting. Very, it just got my gears going. Y'all got to let me know in the comments what y'all think about this off the grid. And is there anybody watching that is living off the grid now? Let me know. But till next time, man, self-love and positivity. Fire Squad, I got you and you know it.